James Thomas Cullins was born in Sylacauga, Alabama in 1930. His parents, Jim and Hattie, worked for Avondale Mills and lived in the local mill village. James was the oldest of 5 children: James, Gladys, Dovie, Wallace, and Claude. The family had little money for luxuries, but one unique memory that James has of his childhood is Sunday afternoon movies. As a boy, he and neighborhood friends would walk the railroad track from Sylacauga to Childersburg to the nearest theater, a distance of 6 miles. Although it was a long walk, he gladly made it. He considered it a luxury, and the movies were his first exposure to the idea of telling a story on stage. In 1948, he joined the Army and was sent to Germany to serve as a tank commander. Sergeant Cullins spent 3 years in Germany, where he met Margaret. After their first date, James was suddenly called away for 4 months. He was hours away from Margaret, and with no way of contacting her, he assumed that they would never see each other again. When he was able to return to her town, he could not find her and did not know where she lived. The war had separated her from her family, so she was living with foster parents. Oddly, a red-headed lady asked if he was looking for Margaret. "Yes," he replied. She led him through the back streets to Margaret's temporary home. When he arrived, Margaret was away at church service, so James waited. He was so impressed with this young girl who had lost everything but still sought the Lord. It was her actions and attitude that later led this young soldier to Christ and a life of ministry. James was smitten. They were married twice, once per the German requirements and once for the American government. They often wondered about the red-headed lady. Neither Margaret nor her foster parents knew her, and she was never seen again, nor was she ever identified. Something powerful had brought James and Margaret back together, and it may have been an angel. After his term in Germany, together they returned to the United States and made their home in Sylacauga. James went to work for Avondale Mills, but while there, studied accounting at a local business college. He soon landed a job in Port St. Joe, Florida, and worked for 4 years as an accountant. It was here that he gave his first sermon and decided to pursue ministry full-time. A new profession meant new studies. While traveling to Tennessee to study the Bible at Freed-Hardeman College, he was delayed with transmission trouble and was stuck in the Alexander City area for a week. When he attended worship at the Church of Christ, they offered him a job. He began his ministry in Alexander City in 1965 when the church had 44 attendees. In 28 years as the minister, the church grew to 325 members. It built a new worship building, a children's home, and a facility for the elderly. James and Margaret were unable to have their own children, so they just adopted all the kids in the church as their own. They served as youth group leaders in addition to all the other duties of a full-time minister in a growing church. After locating Margaret's mother alive in Poland, James and Margaret returned to Germany in 1972 for 2 years of mission work, and a special visit with her mother behind the Iron Curtain. It had been 28 years since they had last seen one another. It was a sweet reunion, but far too short to make up for the many years apart. Regardless, from this day forward, they spoke often. In 1989, James was elected to the state legislature, where he was admired for his speaking ability and his personal integrity. He traveled the country holding gospel meetings and performing as an after-dinner speaker and comedian. He sold tapes of his performance, a comedy routine with a strong moral lesson. During this time of travels, he spoke in over 25 different states. His life changed when Margaret suddenly went to heaven in 2001. Somehow, he continued to preach, but he missed his friend and partner. Over the years, James enjoyed his church family, spending time playing cards, dominoes, or other games. He outlived all his siblings. He is the last to go of his immediate family. During this time, he became a prayer warrior. Every Sunday, he would call certain people to collect the names of the sick at their churches, adding these names to his prayer list for each morning. In 2018, he married Sandra. Since then, she has been his friend, spouse, caretaker, nurse, and his godly helpmate. With her close by his side, he has been able to stay active, to travel, and continue his ministry. With her help, he has continued to preach every week, even though he is now mostly blind. Each week, he created and delivered a new sermon. Sandra read his verses aloud while they created what he calls his weekly masterpiece. With the help of Sandra, each week he assembled a lesson, not on paper, but in his mind. Each week, he flawlessly delivered it to an intrigued audience. With her ceaseless support, he was able to complete his 75th year of preaching. Because of Sandra and her love for James, his final years were vibrant, abundant, and meaningful. This past Saturday, just before noon, James received his crown in heaven. The big celebration started with an introduction to a red-headed angel who ceremoniously led him to Margaret. Family and friends, and a long line of believers who were baptized because of James stopped by to welcome him and say thanks. With no pain, no tears, and with his new 20/20 vision, James examined all the beauty. Before long, a familiar face approached. It was Jesus himself. "I have so much to talk to you about," exclaimed James. Holding up his hand to calm the moment, Jesus responded with, "There will be plenty of time for conversation. I have a better idea." He reached in his pocket and pulled out a deck of rook cards. "How about a game?" With a slow smile, James nods and says, "I think I am going to like heaven."